Five, four, three.
Good evening, and welcome to the Reel McCoy. I'm your lonely host today. I'm your host, Meffistoe, and always, usually with me, some guest or somebody to help me run the show. But today, we're going sort of half solo. Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge is going to join us for a little bit. He kind of said he will, but then he had some company on, so it's going to be a fun solo show, but we'll make it through. What is the Reel McCoy, you might ask? The Reel McCoy is your weekly movie podcast where we ask you to go watch a movie, watch it, come back to us, and we break it down for you. You get all inside being super cinephile. I like that. I've been using that word all week in various places. What is on the agenda? It is still November. It is the last day of November. It is Thanksgiving weekend. So we kind of set off on a journey through November, and it is celebrating Tom Hanks's career / some of his movies. Like he's got a big ass career. So we just had a, tasteful here and there and here and there. We'll say hello to Johnathon, and we'll say hello to DK up in here. And all the rest of the lurkers and the old, various platforms we're on. We're on X, we're on Rumble, we're on all the stuff, like most of the time. All right. So it is Thanksgiving. And as you can tell, if you clicked on the title and joined us, it is all about that thing you do. Now, why did I pick? Why did we pick that thing you do? Well, originally we had a different a different setup in mind for doing this whole weekend. Originally, the Green Mile was supposed to be this weekend, and there was some other. I completely forgot, but there was a different Tom Hanks movie on the agenda. But because of all the changes and the fact that a good friend, my best friend in the world, who's probably watching right now, is kind of lurking in the shadows, all my feelings. Happy Thanksgiving, buddy. I love you. He, I've said it a million times, is a busy man. He's a great help and a great a guy to bounce off things, but sometimes he has to actually bounce through some places. So I will be here today until Tom Connors shows up or not. But yeah, so we'll go through the movie same as we always do. But we'll say hello to Philip and we'll answer this question. Green Mile better than Shawshank? No. In my opinion, of course, in my humble opinion. The reason is a very personal one. I think Shawshank Redemption has a lot more messaging about hope that I particularly like. Plus, the overall plot twists that you get from Shawshank have much more of an impact in terms of steering you one way and then really coming back around, and the sort of the setups and payoffs that you do get in the Shawshank Redemption are much more impactful, and they're playing the long game with you, which is absolutely great. I absolutely love that they're definitely playing the long game with you and actually, putting you to sleep, and then bam, it just turns you into, it's like, oh my God, I did not expect that. And you were literally supposed to be in tears at the very end. And hello to all you Salty Nerd Podcast raiders. Here we go. Penny, hi Penny. Kalekioki, Keely Chow, Roll Tide, my brother. Bad Gamergate. Damn. Who's with this? Cavitino Cavalryman Che. All right. That's a little bit of a tongue twister there. All right. Everybody's here. All the lurkers are here. All the raiders are here. Now, one thing I forgot to put on was actually the stuff that we need to talk about next, which is behind the screens.
Sound production, take 2.
Behind the screens is where we turn to whoever has the research done for that week, I guess. And we get the lowdown on everything that is behind the scenes, production stuff, creative, all that stuff. Now, for this particular movie, it was really hard to find like good production, like casting stuff or anything like really like significant. However, I do have a few things written down. First of all, That Thing You Do is Tom Hanks's directorial debut, but it's also his writing debut. He started to work on the script while he was on the promotional tour of Forrest Gump. So that's way back when in 1994. Remember, in 1995, he did Apollo 13. That will come up a little bit later, but it was stewing. It was working. He had a lot of help. A lot of people who are like people like Ron Howard, people like Jonathan Demme, people who he knew from working with them, and they helped him out with actually creating this movie. In terms of casting, according to Tom Hanks himself, the first person to actually come up and audition is Charlize Theron, which and she was the first actress also to actually get the part and be one of the cast, which is, a fun little tidbit, I thought. Tom Everett Scott, who played the drummer, first, wait, I have to pull up the names because I'm going to be at a disadvantage here. So please allow me. Here we go. That Thing You Do. cast. I'm going to forget all the names today. So Schaech, the drummer Schaech, Tom Everett Scott. It was also his acting debut in a big film. I think he did a few TV parts, but this is his like film debut. And he almost did not get the part because he looked too much like the young Tom Hanks. And Hanks was like, I don't want to do like a self-insert kind of a thing. But it was Rita Wilson who convinced him because she thought Tom was cute. Now, I think Tom Connors is cute, and I wish he was here, and he'll probably be here soon. He's probably arguing with R&B in the backstage of Salty Nerd podcast, but you never know. Ethan Embry, who was the bass player, did not have a name for a good reason. It was done that way on purpose because apparently nobody knows who the bass player is unless he's one of the Beatles. That will come up later. But Embry said that he couldn't just relate to the character, actor shit. So he invented a name for him, and the name he came up with was Tobias. Because every so often they introduced him in the movie as TB player, or his name was TB player as the bass player. So Tobias. All four actors, before the shooting even started, trained together for about 8 weeks to make it look like they're convincingly playing the instruments. The thing is, out of all four of them, Steve Zahn is the only guy who could actually sing and play the guitar because he grew up playing the guitar and singing in a band. I mentioned that Hanks worked with people that he liked, and he brought on a lot of people on this movie to not only help him behind the scenes, but actually be in front of the camera. This is the movie until this day that all four Hanks family members play on during the movie. So Tom Hanks plays Mr. White. Rita Wilson plays Marguerite. By the way, Marguerite is her maiden name. It's it is like her original name, not her acting name. Is Marguerite? See, Ibrahimov. There, I forgot. I remembered it. So, his son is he has a very short part. If you guys remember the movie, he was the one that takes Faye from the car into the studio while she's wearing this gown, this sort of ready for TV gown. And his daughter is one of the sort of background store people. She does not have any lines, nor does his son. The director in the sort of beach party scene is actually Jonathan Demme, the guy who directed Tom Hanks in Philadelphia. The Troy Chesterfield, the host of the Showcase TV show where they actually do get to play in, played in a sitcom called Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks. He was the other guy. If you remember that show was the Hanks and his buddy were trying to get to a secretarial job. I think it was in New York, but I don't remember that much. And they couldn't get a job as a male secretary, so they dressed up as women to be secretary. It's a fun little show. I think it only had one season. Speaking of that beach party, in that little movie scene within a movie scene, the name of the band was Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters. That is a reference to Forrest Gump, with the bubblegum shrimp. Where was I? Oh yeah, I kind of skipped over it. One of the DJs that interviews the band is Clint Howard. It is Ron Howard's brother. Ron Howard directed Tom Hanks on Apollo 13. Speaking of Apollo 13, there are a few connections to Apollo 13. One of them is one of the bands is called Marilyn Lovell's and the Geminis. That is named after Jim Lovell's wife, and of course the Gemini rocket. Bryan Cranston plays Gus Grissom during that TV show, that Showcase TV show. But later on, he played Buzz Aldrin in kind of a mini series that is called From Earth to the Moon, about the entire NASA project, and it was produced by Tom Hanks. Jimmy, the main singer, is called Jimmy Mattingly after Ken Mattingly from Apollo 13, and Lenny's last name, Steve Zahn's character, Lenny's name is Hayes after Fred Hayes, the other guy from Apollo 13. So Lovell, Mattingly, and Hayes, they're all represented in this movie. All right. Before we go straight into the movie, like I said, there are some parallels to the Beatles. Now, I've got a few of them written down. There are a few more. It's a little bit more nitpicky, but bear with me. So the first things first is the band name. Remember, we'll go over it, but the name kind of starts off as The Wonders, but is without the W, and everybody's making a joke. It's called like the Wondaliers or whatever. The Ondeers, something like that. So the Beatles isn't written with two E's. It's written with an E and an A. So it's a beat and also a beetle. Same play on words. The Ondeers, yeah. One of their songs for both bands, one of the Beatles songs, which is called "Please Please Me," is a love ballad, but it is sped up. Same goes with That Thing You Do. It's a slow love ballad, but it's sped up at some point, and it just becomes that song. Right. In one of the TV spots that Beatles did, under Lennon's caption, it says, "Sorry, girls, he's married." Same way as happens later on in the Showcase TV with Jimmy, where he says, "Sorry, girls, he is engaged." Both groups lost their drummer before they got famous. Both groups lost their original bass player. Beatles is due to death. The Wanderers lost it because he just went to the army. Both had a temporary replacement of a drummer, Ringo for the Beatles, and Wolfman to replace the bass player. And of course, in the extended cut, which added about 31 minutes, it is actually shown that Mr. White, Tom Hanks's character, has a boyfriend. He is portrayed as gay. And of course, Brian Epstein, the Beatles manager, was actually gay. He was just in the closet because early 60s, you know. And lastly, both had a female companion that was mistakenly thought as a groupie. For the Beatles, it was actually Cynthia Lennon, which became Lennon's first wife. While there were, I think she was Lennon's wife at the time, they were going to see one like this yogi, and they were taking a train, and she was left behind because she was thought of as a groupie. Couldn't get it back. Faye actually got in. And lastly, the song, the That Thing You Do actually charted for a while. I remember it coming on back when I actually watched VH1 or MTV, one of the two, and they had that billboard thing. It actually charted. It didn't go that far, but it actually charted. And it was nominated for an Oscar, but did not win. All right, cool. Before we begin, I would like to thank Jillian N for 5 gifted memberships. You're all meth addicts. You're all in the crew. So thank you, Jillian. That really helps. I have to say that those of you who came in and stayed from the Salty Nerd podcast, I thank you. If you're new here, welcome. Leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. I never ask. It's just a fun little bit. I'm really close to 2,500. It doesn't mean anything. I would prefer 2,500 views to 2,500 subs, to be perfectly honest, because that's how YouTube works. But it's fun to see that number. That's all. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and check out other stuff that I'm doing, because I tend to do stuff that is not culture war based. I tried to stay positive, but when you review a movie, it's either good or bad. I'm going to give you my take regardless. So we'll see. I have to say that I've been having a rather spectacular month of November. That is not a lie, and it is due to you guys out there getting the stuff recommended and actually watching it. All right, let me just check something, and we're good. All right, let's just go there and there. There we go. All right, let me see what you got in the chat. How many Razzies did it win? Don't know. Didn't check. I don't. If it matters that much, I will check how many Razzies it won, or even Oscars. It really doesn't matter to me unless it's super significant. I thought that's sort of the song. Look, the song is played around 11 times during the entire movie. You only get to hear it twice when it's like the entire song. Once at the very start, when they first play it, they played the slow version. And once at the very end, when they do their showcase, you hear the full song. And I think they use some of the showcase TV scene as the actual video that went on MTV and VHS. Hello, lovely Sherry. Hello. Refreshingly different. So much politics gets tiring. I agree, Luna. I look. It's not like you're not going to have a take here and there, especially on a live show. But when it comes to the actual videos I put out, it's just reviews. I try my absolute best to keep politics off the reviews as much as possible. Not because I want to be like YouTube friendly or nothing. It would be nice, but it's not like I do it on purpose. I would like to take politics off my reviews because I would like to take politics off my movies. I don't want movies with a political bias. I would prefer to have it without. There are some movies that are politically driven, like Wag the Dog or V for Vendetta, which is not really a political movie, but it has sort of political, leanings here and there. But those are one-offs. And plus, in V for Vendetta and in Wag the Dog, you do get a full story. Or movies that are like overtly political, like Man of the Year, or not Man of the Year. Yeah, Man of the Year, or I think it's Man of the State. Oh man. Head of State, not Man of the State. Man of the Year is a movie with Robin Williams, but Head of State is the one with Chris Rock. We kind of covered it on a podcast. I think it was already a couple of years ago. Head of State. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Head of State. Um, Thanksgiving was fantastic. Thank you. Oh, it's not for me. Well, you know. All right, boys and girls, let's get the show on the road. First of all, we kind of get introduced to Skitch. Skitch is our main character, and if you've I do encourage you to go back and rewatch the movie or watch it for the very first time. I think watching this podcast and then watching the movie is going to be counterproductive. It's not like there's a major twist plot or storyline that is like amazing. The whole point is the the entire story is basically very formulaic because of these bands that were existing at a certain period of time, end of 50s up to like late 60s, that were one hit wonders, and they kind of flared up like a meteor. So they were burning really hot and then they just disappeared. Bands were broken, people went here and there, and a lot of that is in this particular movie. And one of the things that Tom Hanks wanted to establish right on is to actually have four different guys with four very different personalities. And when they do get to a point where they have their manager, their main manager, Mr. White, at some point he kind of sets he kind of tells you like it is. So Lenny is the humorous guy, Jimmy's the this guy, Skitch is that guy. And it really establishes from the start where you kind of get to get to meet Skitch, and he's working at his father's appliance store. But during the night, he's listening to Del Paxton. He is really into jazz. He's not into like this schmaltzy kind of poppy music. He's really into like deep, thoughtful music that is uh a little bit more complex than pop. So jazz is a lot more complex than pop, especially at that time. There's nuances, there's riffing off of people. So jazz is much more complex, a little bit more blues, it's a little bit more complex as well. And he introduces you to Del Paxton, and then again it's a setup that comes all the way back around towards the ending of the movie, where we do have sort of a clash between the guys is when the original band actually have Giovanni Ribisi in a little bit of a role here. He comes in and out of the movie, but he was in the original band. But in this sort of situation, he jumps over a meter, and then a parking meter, and then he falls, breaks his arm. And what in this particular time that I like this time around that I watched this, I actually thought of something that is very symbolic. So when you have a cast on your arm, especially a full cast, so it goes all the way around your elbow, that is, and especially back then, it took a long while to sort of get rid of it, and for the break to heal, especially if it's a little bit more of a compound break, but they don't mention it, so we don't know. So for the entirety of the movie, Giovanni Ribisi's character has that cast. Even at the showcase on TV, he has that cast while he was watching on TV at Skitch's parents' place. And that means it took a very short time from the time of his injury to the end of the movie where the band kind of breaks and everybody scatters. So it just tells you how short of a time it took from like 0 to 60 and then back on to 0. It was fast, fast, fast. So it's a couple of months, maybe. All right. A little slug from the old coffee. Yes, I said so. Oh, first of all, hi, Julia. Yes, I did say so. The Evita song won, which is, not a big surprise. Not a big surprise. All right. We got a decent amount of people over here. So let us, and because I think Tom is not going to join us. I don't know. I didn't get a message from him, so I'm going to pretend he will be here at some point. But without Tom Connors, just with you guys, we're going to play our first game of the night. It is called Missing Marquee. Missing Marquee for the uninitiated is where we take 10 posters of movies or art and display them without their text. And you guys out there in the chat will have to guess which movie this is. We've got some heavy hitters there in the chat. I hope you can do this quickly. Here we go. By the way, I did not prepare this in advance. This is a random thing that came up. I've already did that a while ago. But one of the guys who created this movie actually passed away a couple of days ago, I think. Yeah, DK's got it. It is Original Airplane. Original Airplane. Yes, correct. This is a Coen's Brothers movie. John Goodman, who's been in quite a few Coen Brothers movie, including one of my favorite movies of all time. Luna is no idea. Jay is close. It is Barton Fink. John Turturro has been in a couple of, including the one. Here we go. This movie came up this week at a very different turn of events. Pretty Lady, no. Breakfast at Tiffany's is correct. The old pixie haircut that Brie Larson had brought memories to that actress. That I forgot her name. It's not Tiffany. We've covered this movie on the show before. This is George Romero movie. It is not Powder. Thank you, DK. This is Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead. This movie I need to review because I need to rewatch it. It's long, though. It is long. Here we go. Jay's got it. JFK. Luna's got it. JFK. Correct. This was another movie we covered. I didn't particularly like it. I even reviewed it. This is Nicolas Cage. Until a certain point, until Pig came out, he said that this was his favorite movie to do. This is not Pig. No. This is not Pig. This is from 2018. Pig came out 2021. Ooh. Kalikioki's like, I don't know any of these. Go back. I was like, I don't want you to watch this because I don't think it's a particularly good movie. But True American with the best guess of all, Raising Arizona in Zombieland. That would have been a fantastic movie. This one is not. Well, I don't think so. This is, of course, Mandy. Kalikioki's got it, dude. He did a quick Google search. I'm telling you. I'm calling you out, Kalikioki. What is this movie? I need you to be more specific, Jay. Be more specific. It is a vacation, but which one? Which one? Which one? It is National Lampoon's Original Vacation. It is not Summer Vacation. There we go. This is the only poster that did not have the title in the poster. It's not technically one of the original posters, but it's the only one I've got. It's the only one I've got. Bad Gamers Gate has got it. It is Smokey and the Bandit. Correct. A couple more. This movie is the last movie to come out in the entire 80s decade. This is the last movie that came out December, I think 25th of 1989. It is, of course, Tango and Cash. Love that movie. And this one is a long shot, guys. This one a long shot. I've only seen this movie once. I've only seen it once, and I did not like it. It's a tough call. It is not Time Cop. It is not Event Horizon. Event Horizon has got way better. Griffin with the closest you can. It is not The Lawnmower Man. It is not The Arrival. It is The Andromeda Strain. It is The Andromeda Strain. Yes, buddies. It is The Andromeda Strain. Only seen it once. All right. Cool. All right. So our boys are in a pickle. Their drummer has fallen down and cannot get up. But they are playing at a local band, a local band, not festival, but sort of a talent show or whatever. And the prize is $100. Dude, that's a lot back then. So they're kind of enticing Skitch to like split it 4 ways. And the fact of the matter is Skitch is, he needs to placate his dad a little bit. So what he does is like, okay, if you buy this radio clock for $14.99, I will be at the show. I'll come over, we'll do some rehearsals, and we'll do the show. And the guys are, have to relent. And then, of course, throughout this thing is Jimmy is trying to figure out the name of the band. They come up with like the Corvettes, but with a slightly different tune. They come up with various different names, but they cannot sort of agree on one name. And the one thing that came up is Jimmy comes down and is like, "Okay, I got it. It's going to be the Wonders." But it's going to be a sort of in a play on words where you don't use the W, and it's just the one, Wonders. And immediately, Lenny's like, yeah, but everyone's going to think it's the Oneaters. And by the way, they're been referred to as the Oneaters twice. Until Mr. White is like, dude, this is not going to work. We're going to switch to the Wonders with the W. So that's it. I'm your manager. Take it or leave it. So yeah. And of course, as soon as they, a Skitch comes in, starts to do the show. And the first time we hear the song is there in their, I think it's Lenny's garage or something, somebody's garage. Faye is, of course, there. Faye is always there with them. Faye is with Jimmy. But they sort of have a problem, but you can't really tell what the problem is until the very end of the movie, where the song is by Jimmy. Jimmy wrote the song, and they came up with the music, of course. And Skitch kind of immediately takes to the song, so the beat and everything, and all the guys are pretty much, they're pretty happy with it, because it took their former drummer about what, 6 weeks, 8 weeks to learn to get into the rhythm. And it is a very slow love ballad, And the big night comes in. Faye is being introduced to Skitch's girlfriend, Charlize Theron. Just see, I have to, now I have to check her name, of course. Not that it matters. Tina's her name. Tina. And they go up to sing, and all the bands in front of them have a very slow beat to them. There's a few sort of like, feels like they're a kind of a mariachi band, but they're not really a mariachi band. And this, this little MC is being annoyed by everything, because he wants to do everything his way, and the crowd is like not having it. And at one point, it's like, "You want me to kick your ass?" To one of the attendees. Like, dude, he is annoying. He is annoying. Skitch was the one that elevated that thing you do into a dance song. That's what I'm getting at. Exactly. So they start their talent show, and Skitch is beating rather quickly. Jimmy even turns to him and is like, "Dude, Skitch, this is too fast. Slow it down." And he doesn't slow it down. And what ends up happening is both Lenny and Jimmy have to adjust. And I like that whole scene, because it starts off sort of not off key, but off tempo. But then as the lines go one after the other, Lenny and Jimmy kind of match up to that level of tempo. And as soon as they do that, the crowd starts to, flock in and start dancing, and they get into the groove, and they, Lenny's the first guy who comes around. The bass player is just following Skitch's beat, and Jimmy's the last one to like give in and finally do it at a higher tempo, because he suddenly looks at the crowd, and he feels the crowd kind of responding to him. And that's a great scene where it's slow. It starts off like you're going too fast, and it goes into like, "Oh, this is great. This is awesome." But then when it ends, he kind of turned to him. It's like, "This was too fast." It's like, you have to play it slow. But there's no relent. And of course, there's a guy in the crowd who listened to the song. He's like, "Oh, come and play in my restaurant." And they do. Let me do this. Yeah. It's worth seeing once. It's more of a tribute to many bands that made it a one hit. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. There, again, even Mr. White, their manager, Tom Hanks's character, he breaks it down to Skitch at the very end. Look, this is a cliche story of a band that came from a small town. In this case, it's Erie, Pittsburgh, which is, I think today is a little bit bigger than a small town, or Erie, Pennsylvania, not Pittsburgh. And they just made it big, and it like burned on the charts and charted really big and made it like a lot of impact. However, as soon as they were like up for doing something else, the band is being split from one reason or another. It really didn't matter. It just happened. And it sort of telegraphed at a certain point. And even Del Paxton, well, we'll get to it, but even Del Paxton says that to Skitch at one point. It's like, yes, like bands come and go. All right. So the band kind of hits it big in this restaurant, and they're playing, everybody's dancing, and the same guy that was in the talent show comes into the restaurant, is like, do you guys have a record? If you had a record, I could like play it at home and enjoy it, and I would like pay you $1 for it. And the guys are like, what? Yeah, why don't we actually do a record? So Schaech comes up with this. He says that he has this guy who can do it, but he does it in a church, so they have to do it sort of hush hush on the down low because it's cheap to do that way. You might, recognize the dude. I forgot his name, but he's soft melody. Oh, shit. No, see, this is why I need all my feelings. You know why? Because I know the guy, but I forgot his name. He's a singer. Chris Isaac. That's the dude. Very, very famous dude with a very mellow voice. But yeah, he's the guy who records them, and he's a church guy, and they do it in one take, and they're like, okay, when do we get the record? And he's like, well, Luke 25:17 says blah 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 blah, and the bass player's like, okay, so when do we get the record then? It's like, Wednesday. Don't worry about it. But I do like the fact that Jimmy actually does convince him to do one take and do a different song, so they'll have the B side, which, if you know, a record has A side, which has the better song, and then the B side with the not so popular, not so poppy songs that are there for the artist. And sometimes those songs actually do hit bigger than the poppy songs. I wouldn't use the phrase down low. You mean QT. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Let's see. All right. So the guys do their recording, and everything's going well. They already have bonus coming in, right? Lenny goes to the restaurant dude. The restaurant dude is like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's the 100 we settled for. Here's an extra bonus. It's like, Lenny's like, what? Why is this bonus? Because you're bringing in people. You're bringing in business. This business is booming. Everybody's dancing. Everybody's happy. They're eating pizzas like crazy because it's a pizzeria. I'm happy. Please come again. So the boys have the record. Faye is in charge of selling the records, and Schaech actually puts on like a place where they can sell the records for less than $1 for the Wonders. And of course, he gets this guy, comes in, and he's like, oh, do you want your song to be on the radio? If you sign me as your manager, I will put you down as, as I will make sure your song will be on the radio within 48 to 72 hours. And to me, when I saw this for the very first time, I was like, this guy is going to screw them over so bad. Why are they signing? And this is the most funny bit, because Steve Zahn is set up to be this sort of the jokey guy, the clown, the comic relief, basically. And he's like, dudes, we have a guy offering us a contract in this luxury camper. And I was laughing my ass off because it is so hilarious. But again, this is 1964. This is set up in 1964, so mid-60s. Things were a little bit or a lot more sketchy back then, not to mention the fact that it's super sketchy right now. But there's always these grifters out there coming in and offering something, and they end up with everything, and you're stuck with the bill, or you're stuck with a contract that you cannot break, or else you're going to pay a lot of money. And to be fair, Jimmy is the most careful of the bunch, where Skitch just wants to get out and play. Same goes with Lenny. And for the most part, the bass player is like, he's just a guy there. Which, like I said, he doesn't have a name for a very good reason, because it was kind of known that the bass player is the lesser of the group, he's sort of not important for some reason. Take it or leave it. Didn't quite happen in the Beatles, did it? But yeah, it so they get this guy, they sign in, and he doesn't take their master, but he does take one of their records as they're sitting down in this sketchy camper van. And like I said, to be perfectly fair, I was waiting for them to like fall, but this is like the start of the movie, so you kind of know he is somewhere they're gonna make it, because otherwise there's no story, right? But he does manage to get their stuff on the local radio. And I like that scene later on where Skitch has a small little pocket radio with one earpiece on, and his dad is like, get this thing off your ear and go sell some stuff to people, while Faye is listening to a different station and the bass player is listening to a different station, and it comes up on the station that Faye kind of listened to, and she immediately runs down the street screaming her head off, picks up the bass player, he switches over to the different channel. They go into to Patterson's with the appliance store, and they all go crazy, bursting into the store, hugging and cheering. Jimmy and Lenny coming in, everybody's, even Skitch puts on the clock radios he sold to Lenny and Jimmy, puts it on. His dad is going completely crazy. Krampus Jeebus radio, what's that? Correct. Yeah, good old times. Good old times. So the band is kind of gets into the groove of things. And at one point, we get this angle with Tina. So Skitch's girlfriend, Tina, goes to the dentist. This is after she went to the dentist, and she has this conversation with Skitch, and Skitch is like, look, we just hit the radio. They kind of want us to go on this thing. I want you to, come and celebrate with us. And Tina's like, no, I can't do that. I need to go to the dentist and be at the dentist all day. Like, I don't know how dentistry worked in the 60s. I bet you it did not take all day. Definitely not. So we kind of know that Tina is slowly but surely dropping off. And later on, I think Faye talked to Skitch at one point, or he talks to Mr. White, and the fact that he has a girlfriend comes up, and he said that, yeah, she kind of went off with the dentist. I think, I don't remember the situation again. I watched it like 2 days ago, whatever. So their manager gets them on a show, on a big show called Boss Vic Koss, sort of like a made up DJ name. And they sort of have not really a talent show, but sort of a showcase show, but not on TV. It's sort of on stage. And this is the first time where they are facing like a huge crowd. Kevin Pollak plays Big Voss, and I like the fact that Lenny in the green room, he sees this big Voss's a poster, and he kind of marks all over it. And there's a small little scene where Kevin Pollak as the MC kind of prepares, and he keeps smoking these cigarettes, and he's like pa 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 pa, warming his voice, and with the cigarette in his mouth. Freaking hilarious. But yeah, so the guys go up on stage, everything's prepared, but they have a little bit of trouble with their equipment. So the show does not go well at all. They bomb in the traditional sense. They bomb hard, and they feel like crap. Really, they feel like crap. But as Skitch walks out, their manager pulls him back in. He's like, "Okay, we have a meeting. I want you to go and meet Mr. White." And he gets introduced to Mr. White, which is Tom Hanks's character. Small little side note, which I did not have in my notes, but I did do a little bit of a research. They keep talking to Mr. White, addressing him as Mr. White, so there's no first name. However, later on, when they go to the president of Playtoons Records, and Jimmy kind of goes out and talks to him, his name comes up as like, he calls him Amos. Amos, get this kid off of me. What the fuck is he doing? Right? You don't do this thing. Referring to Mr. White as Amos. Now, Amos is Tom Hanks's father, and he did a little bit of a homage there. No Sandra Hammerschlag. No, not P. Diddy. Not P. Diddy. No, not Anus. Amos. 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 Like the prophet. Is this a prequel to Elvis? I don't know, but I wonder if Tom Hanks accepted the Elvis role because he did this role. Mr. White, the Playtone guy, is very different from the Colonel, I think, in terms of the character. They had sort of the same role, but they're very, very different. The Colonel was way more sinister. Mr. White he's not really sinister. And like I said, there's a moment at the end where they're sitting in the big studio, and the band just fell apart. And Mr. White he's sort of unfazed. He's telling to Skitch, look, this is a one-hit wonder, kind of a cliche. This always happens. And he's like, from now on, you're in breach of contract. Screw you. I've got the masters. And this is where it kind of started, where he addresses Skitch as the lead guy, and he kind of breaks it down. Look, Jimmy is the heart, Lenny's the funny, the bass player, and you're the brain, which kind of means you're the intelligent dude that knows what's up, and when I'm talking to you, how serious I am or not serious. And he kind of addresses him as the leader of the group. And it kind of feels weird, especially when you watch this for the very first time. You're like, wait a minute, he's just the guy they imported because their other drummer hurt his arm. He couldn't play. And this guy's sort of riding their coattail, and now he's the guy who's representing them. It's not like he did it on purpose. The first manager comes in and addresses him because he presents this. Skitch has this quality in him that you can talk to him. That's why they're referring to him as the brain or the intelligent one, or as the leader. And when the group is already there signing their contracts, they're already on their way to perform in the Playtone's galaxy of stars. And this is something that happened during late 50s and all throughout the 60s, where a lot of these groups, it could be small town groups, it could be a bit larger groups, are these groups that are following this bus that goes on tour, and they just keep doing this sort of showcase or kind of a festival. In this case, the first festival they do is sort of a farmers festival, and they just play around and they keep going and going and going. And these guys, and when they introduce, the Wonders already know the people who are playing in those shows. It's that girl from there, and the bass player is loving this trio of black ladies that are in this sort of like, that trio of ladies. I'm mumbling, so let me stop here, take a little bit of a swig. So the trio of black ladies is sort of like that Diana Ross Supremes kind of a trio. It comes up, if you ever seen Dream Girls with Beyonce, sort of that kind of a trio, that model of the trio. Thank you, Sandra Hammerschlag. The Supremes. It's modeled after them, but not really. Same goes with the other dude that they meet, and he goes up in front of them, right? Let me see the name of him. Frederick Fredrickson, sort of that suave baritone kind of a singer that comes up, has these set of songs or one song that he's really known for. He's within that galaxy. And the one thing that Tom Hanks was adamant about was, for each and every act that was in this galaxy of rogue gallery of bands or performers, they all had a song written especially for them in order for them to perform and be believable. And that's quite a feat to do. For each kind of, so Frederick Fredrickson has his song. The other girl, what's her name? See, I don't have her right now. Diane Dane is the white chick that kind of falls for Jimmy a little bit. She has her own song. So everybody in that galaxy of Playtone Galaxy have their own song, and it's kind of helps with the authenticity of what Tom Hanks wanted to present. He wanted those people to have their own voice and not just, fake the funk. And I did like that. Everybody has their own personality. As Mr. White kind of accompanies the boys up on stage, he dresses them up with suits. It's like, you're going to be in suits, and you're going to be in good suits because you're good boys. And this is something that kind of mirrors the whole Beatles thing, where the Beatles were in suits because they were good boys from the UK, right? Although a few years later, that kind of switches around and kind of gets tossed around and changed. And they also get introduced to this guy, where Mr. White is like, look, do you see this guy? This guy's the biggest DJ in the sort of tri-state area. If you guys do good today, your record will be playing at his station tomorrow. I think he's from Cincinnati or Cleveland or something like that. And they do very, very well. They do supremely well. And they get rewarded, because as soon as they kind of start their tour, Mr. White brings them their billboard, And we're going into this montage where they see them at, I think it's number 71 on the Billboard chart. And of course, they're very happy, they're ecstatic. They have that little again, that montage of them riding through sort of like the United States as they go all over the place. And yes, this is exactly, and let me try to say that name. Cavatino. Sorry if I butchered that name. Cavatino says that Schaech has his trademark sunglasses. This is where the sunglasses comes in, as Mr. White said, everybody, you're all good boys except for you. You're going to be different, because again, he recognized that Schaech is a little bit above these guys in terms of music knowledge and smarts, maybe street smarts, or just musically smarter than them. So he gives them the sunglasses to differentiate him from them, even though he's not the lead singer, right? And yes, you gotta have a montage. You gotta have a montage. Of course, of course. And it serves to speed up the timeline, but it does go from there into their interviews, into more pictures of the Billboard charts as they go from one number into a higher number into a higher number. And it goes very, very well until a certain point where they just, at one point, they just outgrow their own potential. And let me just move on a little bit there. They sort of get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and their suits begin to be better and better and better. And if you notice it, when you introduce to Freddie Fredrickson, he has the same exact suit, and everybody in the Playtone Galaxy has their same suits over and over and over again. But the Wonders get an upgrade, and Mr. White even says, "Gold looks good on you. Just go on stage." And when they do, they get, let's say, they get the big call. And you see all these guys are beginning to be way more popular than the entire galaxy of Playtone. And this is where Mr. White is like, okay, you've outgrown this tour. It is time to hit the big leagues. Do you want to be in the movie? And the guys are like, yeah, heck yeah. So why don't we go to California? Right? And I love this, because they fly first class, and first class looks like first class. They have seats that are opposite each other, as if they're riding on a train, which is with a big table, right? And when they get to California, they go into this hotel, and the bellboy's like, "Welcome to my hotel," because this is not your regular bellboy. Is more of a concierge type of a guy. He knows who to talk to, what you need. He'll set you up with everything, and it is straight from the get go. You know that this guy knows his business, knows his stuff. So the guys go and do a movie. Now they think they're in a movie, however, they're in a beach movie, and this is very indicative of the time, early 60s, mid 60s. It's the Beach Boy era kind of a thing, surfer dude movies. These movies are terrible. Elvis was in one of these movies. It's terrible. They're very cheap to make, though, and they were very popular at the time because of the music. And this is where the Captain Geach's shrimp shooters And I love the fact that when everything is done and Jimmy's complaining that they're not playing their own music, and Lenny's like, who cares? We're in the movie, right? Mr. White comes up to them and is like, "Oh, you did a great job, boys. You get to keep your own uniform." And they're dressed up in this stupid sailor outfits. It's just, there's tiny little moments in this movie where the humor is like completely absurd. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Why would we want these sailor outfits? And that's the whole point. It's like sort of silly, stupid humor, but it's fun. It just makes the whole movie a lot more of an enjoyable kind of an experience. Um, and of course, they do have that sort of radio commercial radio promotion kind of a thing where they have to be at the radio, and the radio guy has his own spiel, and then, "Oh, hello, boys," and they go to the boys like, "Hello." And that's it. That's the only thing that they're saying. And Skitch kind of turns around like to Mr. White's like, "Is this it? Are we done?" And Mr. White is like, "Yeah, sure, we're done." It's like, we're moving. We're just here to, introduce ourselves and be done with it. And it's sort of like the boys have their own smackdown into reality mode when they get to California. Um, when Jimmy complained, Mr. White points. We got a shot of the beach from the other side, so from where they were standing towards the beach, and you get to see the ocean. And Mr. White is like, "Okay, you could play your music in Erie, Pennsylvania, or be here and be in the movie and be in this weather." And the boys are like, "Yeah, Jimmy, shut the hell up. Shut the hell up." And then, of course, they get introduced to not Sal. So they get introduced in the Playtone, not mansion, but the guy who owns Playtone. I want to get to the name of the dude. I think his name is Max. Not Max. Come on, where are you? Where are you? I can't find him now. Come on. Well, I can't find him now. Anyway, I wanted to give you his name. But he owns Playtone. And then, of course, Jimmy, because Jimmy's a smart, not really smart, but he's a hothead. He comes to the main dude, is like, "Dude, we want to record the B side of this because we need to for artistic integrity." And the dude's like, "Hey, miss, get this guy off of me. What the hell are you talking about? Nobody talks to me," with a lot of like avocado smeared all over his face. And this is where Jimmy and Faye's relationship kind of starting to visibly breaks down, as Faye understands what their place is in the hierarchy, but Jimmy keeps pushing. He pushes Mr. White to record a second album, or yeah, basically a second album or more songs. He is pushing for that. And Mr. White's like, "Okay, relax. We need to do this and this and this first, and then we'll do the second album." And he keeps promising and promising, and Jimmy's not having it. All the while, Lenny is falling in love with this receptionist and kind of dates her and is like, "Okay, I'm just going to Vegas. I'm going to take my girl into Vegas." Avocados are good. Avocados are good for face mask. Correct. That is correct. That is very good. So Lenny wants to take this girl out and go to Vegas. Jimmy just wants to work on the music. Faye loves Jimmy, but she is starting to, like I said, get enough of it. And the bass player is all about, look, I'm going to leave, right? They're talking about doing the tour, doing the TV show. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to leave after the tour because I'm enlisting in August 30th. And by the time they get to California, he's like, yeah, I'm about to leave. So I'm going to Disneyland. But he doesn't tell anybody he's going to Disneyland, which is great. And he just vanishes like a fart in the wind, as the as the Shawshank Redemption says. Meanwhile, the fourth member of this group, Schaech, they're in California, and he wants to go and listen to catch a jazz show. So he goes to our boy, and he's like, "Do you know any good jazz clubs?" And our boy here is very smart because he knows exactly where to send our boy Schaech here. And the whole point is, like, he's asking him a very specific question, and Schaech immediately answers the correct answer. And our boy's like, "Oh yeah, we've got you. Don't worry." And he goes to the cab. He's like, "You need to go to the Blue Club. Get him there." Because he knows that Schaech knows good jazz rather than just your mellow, typical white people jazz. And I'm saying white people fondly. It's not. Let's just say this: it's not white people, normies or connoisseurs. And Schaech our bellboy here, our concierge knows that Schaech is a connoisseur of jazz. So he sends them to the good club, not the wishy-washy normie club. And I'm sorry about the comment, but it is what it is. And you know what I'm talking about. And Schaech has a great time. Tom isn't here yet. Sorry, he's not here yet. He sent me a message. I'm not here. So if you're expecting Tom and you're going to be sorely disappointed, it's just me. Unless he pops in a second or two. But no, he's not waiting backstage. He is a little bit busy. He is more busy than he intended to be. So it is what it is. I'm sorry. But Schaech listens to great jazz. He's really enjoying himself. He gets a little bit more plastered than he intended to be. His waitress, Marguerite. You thought it was Tom Connors? You are sorely mistaken. I am but a sidekick to the great Tom Connors. I'm sorry. But I do like myself in that way. So this is Rita Wilson, of course. But Rita Wilson recognized something in Schaech that everybody else recognizes, is the fact that Schaech knows his stuff. And she's the one who like, "Oh, do you want to meet like the band, or do you want to meet Del Paxton?" And he's like, "Wait a minute. Del is here? Can I meet him?" And of course, she gets him to the table. It's like, "Del, this is Schaech. He would really like to meet you." And Del is like, "As long as he's buying drinks, he's more than welcome to be in our table." But this is his ticket in, and I love it. He comes in and he's talking to Del, and he is so plastered. He is so buzzed. He's like, "You're my biggest fan." And Del is like, "Excuse me?" But then, of course, it goes up to it, time skip into sort of the end of the evening as Dell kind of realizes that Skitch knows his stuff, but he still hasn't hurt him. But he understands that Skitch knows jazz because Skitch brings up certain people or certain records that were done as and Dell kind of tells him, yeah, I did it with this guy, I did it with that guy. And this is the point where Dell kind of elaborates the fact that, yeah, bands come and go. I've played with many. It's all good. And then they get hooked on pot and try LSD to make Sergeant Pepper. No, that's not this band. It's the other band we talked about at the start. But of course, Skitch is up very late and he's very, very drunk. And he gets a call in the morning saying, I don't know where your bass player is, and I don't know where everybody is. What the hell is going on? We've got our TV showcase in a few minutes or in a few hours, but you have to get up. We have to go, right? Why did this movie never get so much love it deserved? And one of a few directed by Tom Hanks. One of two directed by Tom Hanks. The other being I think it's from 2021. I don't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but yeah, I've seen it. Only two that he directed. I can bring up IMDb for a second if you want. Let's see. Quick. Not a Man Called Otto. 2021. But definitely not Polar Express. No, I don't have it on the top of my head right now. I can see actor, director. Here we go. Oh, Larry Crown. It's not 2021. It's 2011. He did this and he did Larry Crown. Larry Crown is not a bad movie. It's just sort of a romantic comedy. Not the Terminal. No. Terminal is Steven Spielberg. But he did a few TV sort of. He directed a few TV shows. He directed one of the episodes of Band of Brothers. He directed one of the episodes of From Earth to the Moon. That the show that both shows he actually produced. And a few TV shows before that. I think he directed A League of Their Own, a TV show, because the movie was Penny Marshall. One of the episodes. It's like a very short-lived TV show. Yeah. Well, let me switch this back, and back. There we go. Right. The showcase. We have a bit of a problem. So Faye gets sent to, dolled up, get looking good. But their bass player is completely vanished. He completely is done. We don't know where he is. And they're bringing in Wolfman to, substitute for the bass player. Now, Wolfman does have a name. He actually has two names. He has his name plus his sort of, his show name, which is the Wolfman, or not the Wolfman. And the guys are like, we need to, stick to our guy. And Mr. White is like, well, you don't know where he is. It's either this guy or nobody. And Jimmy's like, can he play? And Wolfman is like, can I play? It's like, okay, he can play. No, not a big problem. He directed Vault of Horrors. Is that a TV show? because I don't think he directed any movie except for this one in Larry Crown. And in Larry Crown, I think he also produced as well. All right. You know what? It is almost an hour and a half. So we'll play our second game of the night, boys and girls. Let me just do this and that and this. It is called Screen Fighter.
Round 1, fight.
Screen Fighter, for the uninitiated, is where we take two movies, pit them together, and see which one is the same, which one is not the same one, which one is the best one. I've lost my train of thought. It is very hard to do this show solo. Trust me. To see which one is the best one, if there's no discernible difference between the two, both of them are good or both of them are bad, we fall into our criteria, which is Friday evening, Saturday evening, out with boys, out with girls, out with their significant other. Two movies in a vacuum. Which one will we pop in? Boys and girls in the chat, please write me your selection. Otherwise, I'm going to select whatever the hell I want. A Long Kiss Goodnight, two movies from 1996. A Long Kiss Goodnight or Twister, original Twister with Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt. Now, I didn't like Twister at all. I watched it. I watched it several times in my life. Not for me. The story is kind of blah. The movie is about a 6. You know, it's not here and there. I was kind of surprised that they actually made a sequel to this, and I was happy. I didn't watch the movie, but from what people told me, I was happy that it wasn't like a full-on continuation, like 20 years later, which is good. It's sort of in the same vein of what Twister was all about, but something different, which is good. A Long Kiss Goodnight has a really bad rap, but it's a very good, solid movie. It is. It just is. Okay, it's Rennie Harlan, it's Samuel L. Jackson, and it's Gina Davis in a role that she has never done before or since then. And it's a solid action movie. I agree, Netflix foreign. It's a solid action movie with a great plot twist. Awesome. Most of you said Twister, though. The first Hunger Games and Cold Mountain, two very distinctly different movies. I think Cold Mountain was a book adaptation as well. So I think both of them are book adaptations. You guys in the chat can tell me if it's not. But one is a long, epic, Oscar bait drama that is set during the Civil War era. And the other is a schmaltzy, very popular book adaptation, very popular movie. Put Jennifer Lawrence into the absolute stratosphere. It's a Civil War movie. Yeah, it's a Civil War movie. Again, not sure it's a book adaptation. The thing is, Cold Mountain is long and meandering. And at least the Hunger Games have a little bit of action. I don't want to see either of these movies. So you guys in the chat can tell me what you want to watch from these two. This is the impossible choice I like when it comes to this particular website that does this, because it could go from like 1896 into 2026 or whatever. Can I pick neither? 2 people said that. I'm going to pick The Hunger Games just for the entertainment value. The Butterfly Effect or Gravity. See, this is another one of those choices. I don't particularly like The Butterfly Effect. I like the sort of the theme overarching story of The Butterfly Effect, but I don't like the Butterfly Effect movie. Gravity, dude. First of all, it's a complete Oscar bait. I did not like George Clooney in this movie. I didn't like Sandra Bullock in this movie. It ends bad. It just has a bad, like, anticlimactic ending to me. Gravity is like Wall-E. Wall-E's a way better movie. Gravity, on the whole, Gravity is boring. Really. It has a few tension moments, but uh, I could not connect with it. It's supposed to keep you sort of in a moment of it's very dangerous, but I never felt like she was in any danger. That's what it is. That's what it is. And it just was overly long. Again, Oscar nominations on top of Oscar nominations. And I think it won a couple. I'm going to watch Butterfly Effect. And I think you guys are with me as well. This one's great. Prometheus, by the way, happy birthday, Ridley Scott, 86 years old. Or the original, the first one, The Fast and the Furious. What say you, chat? As I take a swiggle of my coffee. Question: did you ever see The Host or read the book? Book, no. I don't think I've seen The Host. No. Fast and the Furious, 100%. Fast and the Furious. Woo, baby. Sander Hammerschlag with Prometheus. To be fair, I don't like any. Again, two movies that I don't particularly like. I would watch The Fast and the Furious for the entertainment value. Prometheus did not entertain me at all. It did not add to the alien mythos. I would rather watch Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection back to back instead of watching Prometheus, let alone Dark Covenant. I know people like Prometheus. See, as soon as I said it, I saw it in chat. Sander Hammerschlag, I like Prometheus. It's overall, it's not a bad movie. It's well constructed. It's well thought out. Cinematically, it looked amazing. I did not like the direction where Ridley Scott took the movie. And overall, it just ruined the xenomorph mythos for me. It's just, it is not for me. I do not like it. I would watch Alien Romulus instead of Prometheus. Here you go. Fast and Furious it is. Blades of Glory or Shallow Hal. I sadly watched Blades of Glory. I happily watched Shallow Hal. The Shallow Hal trailer was really good. The movie is slightly worse than the trailer. It did not age well for some reason. Maybe it's because Jack Black. I don't know. But the movie now has a really bad rap. I kind of liked it, but I haven't seen it too many times. I've watched Blades of Glory once. It is a horrible movie. And it's one of the reasons why I don't like Will Ferrell. Like, I really don't like Will Ferrell at all. I'm going to go with Shallow Hal just because I have to make that choice. Cheaper by the Dozen or The Year of the Hare. I have not seen The Year of the Hare. There we go. Mission Impossible Fallout. That's Mission Impossible number 6. And if you don't know which one it is, it's the one with the Henry Cavill's mustache. Or Cheaper by the Dozen, which is another Steve Martin. I've got lots of kids and lots of people in the house. Kind of a, take that, or like Father of the Bride kind of a thing. MI6. Yes, in Mission Impossible. It's one of the better ones. One of the better ones. Right. Last one. I have not seen Rope. Sad to say. It's Jimmy Stewart. It's classic. I haven't seen it though. Here we go. Much better. Now here we go. Whiplash or Desperado? Oh, everybody's like rope. Okay, good. Okay, it's on the list now. I love Jimmy Stewart. I'm gonna take the time and go watch it. Okay. Whiplash or Desperado? Whiplash. Netflix foreign says Whiplash. Paul Harley, our mod of mods, says Desperado. Interesting. For me, I kind of like Whiplash. I really enjoyed it. Who's the main dude? The bald dude. Is man, CK. So you have to check now. Let's see. Whiplash cast. J.K. Simmons. Oh, how could I forget? J.K. Simmons. Such a fantastic role in this one. Desperado, however, is the fancier version of El Mariachi, which is a fantastic movie. J. Jonah Jameson. Thank you. That's why I was so like messed up in the head, because I wanted to say J. Jonah Jameson. You know, you have to give J.K. Simmons the props for it, right? Desperado is like it takes El Mariachi and it like superimpose a good fucking actor in this. The original actor who played El Mariachi and is in Desperado as one of the trio is good, but is not like Antonio Banderas. It's a great movie. Also has fucking, Selma Hayek naked in it. So that's an extra bonus on top of that. Whiplash, fantastic movie. I'm going to pick Desperado. Sort of half and half in the chat. So we'll go with Desperado. And that'll be it for today. Ooh, two great movies. We'll save that. We'll save that for later. We'll save you for later. All right. Let's finish up the TV showcase. The sort of the crowning moment of the Wonders. They're up on stage. The family is around, around the tube watching, because you cannot record it. There's no DVR. There's no VHS or Betamax to record off of TV. It's just you watch it or not watch it at all, right? And our boys are, Jimmy is hurling his spew on, and this is where Lenny's like, I'm going to Vegas with my girl right after the show. We're gonna do some stuff. I'm gonna gamble. And the showcase kind of starts with an introduction and sort of like, same kind of shows you'd see. And this is the faces of the guys as soon as the Wonders go up on stage. It's the family. It's the Patterson family. It's Skitch's family with Giovanni Ribisi, the original drummer. Like I said, he still has the cast from when he hurt himself before they even got famous. So it is a very short period of time. I want to get to there. So this is where you hear the song for the very last time. You hear the full song from start to finish the very last time as they're up on stage doing their song. The Wolfman is on the side. He's not even singing. He doesn't have a microphone, but Schaech, Jimmy, and Lenny are up on stage doing their thing with these very fancy suits, kind of a turtleneck stuff that they got on. Faye's getting crazy. Even at one point, once it's done, Schaech's dad, who was very, strict kind of a guy, who's like taking no quarter from Schaech. He has the shades, and he is doing the drums. Rainbucker with the Beatles. Yeah, dude. I know. They're modeling the Beatles at I forgot the name. Very famous dude, very famous show. Black and white. See, you guys in the chat can tell me. I'm not gonna look for it but yeah. But as soon as everything's done, Faye is also done with Jimmy. Because this is where Mr. White comes in, and Jimmy's like, okay, we've done your show, we've done everything. We're gonna do a record. And Mr. White is like, okay, fine, we've done it. We'll go to the studio. And this is where everything kind of falls apart. Faye is breaking up with Jimmy because he's being an absolute ass. He's being an absolute ass. Lenny goes out with his main squeeze, the secretary from the Playtone, and he's going to Vegas. And then the next day, they're in the studio. And Mr. White is telling Jimmy, well, dude, you have a contract. You can't just record anything you like. You will record whatever we tell you to record, because we are the label. You're just the band. You're going to do as you're told. And Jimmy's like, okay, I've got this song for you. Blah, 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 blah. I quit. Now, Johnathon Schaech plays Jimmy, actually sang the I Quit song in his audition, and this is what got him the role. And he came up with it on the fly, which is, to me, always great movie magic when something kind of clicks in the audition, gets written down into the script, and ends up in your movie. And it's just sort of that highlight moment. Johnathon Schaech, yes, thank you, Netflix. And he's like, I quit. And he quits and leaves. After him, Wolfman is like, okay, Lenny's not here back from Vegas, so we cannot record anything. Jimmy just left. You don't need me. And just like that, the band is done. And Schaech is sort of like, but I really wanted to record some stuff. What just happened? And this is, I told you this twice before. This is the point where Mr. White is like, yeah, you guys are one-hit wonders. This happens a lot. Something happens, you get a song, it's super hot, and you just burn yourself out. Everything collapses, falls out, and it's done. And the thing is, Schaech doesn't want to give up on the opportunity, because I am Spartacus. He was sitting at the piano, so he goes up to the drums, and the guy in the booth is like, do you want to record something? And Schaech is like, no, I've never been to a recording studio. I just want to give it a go. I just want to try it. And the dude in the booth is like, go ahead, just go. We've already, like, Playtone has already paid for this, so we'll just go. And he does a little number with the drums as Del Paxton is going into the booth, and Del's listening. And as Skitch kind of does his thing, does a little number, it's really quick. And he's sitting there, and Del's kind of listening to the fact. And then he goes into the studio, is like, well, what do you call this? And Skitch is like, I am Spartacus. It's like, okay, you do your thing and let's do this. And Skitch is like, do you want, the other guys to come in and do this thing? And Del Paxton's like, no, let's do a duo. And they riff off each other. And he goes off and forms wings. Yeah, kind of. So there are no Imagine Dragons. No, there's no Imagine Dragons. And no Iron Man as well. No. But he has this sort of experience. And the fact of the matter is, before Del Paxton goes into the studio, he tells the dude to actually record. So that kind of sets up something for Skitch later. It doesn't get tapped except for just later on when they kind of give you the lowdown on what happens with everybody. But then Skitch has a running with Faye, and Faye sort of tells him, look, Jimmy's like, he's the guy, and he's the only guy and when she broke up with Jimmy, he says, I cannot believe I wasted 1,000 kisses on you. And that's a little setup for this. So Faye's like, I miss having to kiss Jimmy, basically. That's the best kiss I've ever had. And she asks Skitch about Tina. And Skitch is like, it's not really, Tina is not really for kissing. And then he gives her this big kiss. And when they break it off, Faye reciprocates with another kiss. And we finally get that tension that was building up between Faye and Skitch throughout the movie, which I did not mention, but that's what happened. You could tell they have sort of a rapport because Faye knows where things are going, and so does Skitch. He's not really delusional about who owns what until sort of the very end, where everything kind of collapses and he feels like everything kind of slips between his fingers. But then he has that conversation with Faye, and everything kind of settles into, oh, I know what I've been missing, but because he was with Jimmy, he didn't want to break up this whole band thing. But now that the band is already broken, I can move on Jimmy's girl. And this sets up the last bit where they kind of tell you the lowdown on what happened. So it tells you about Guy and Faye Patterson. They were married, and they stayed in California. They stayed in Venice. And then moved on to Washington. Jimmy has become, sort of not really a recording artist, but, he's created a new band, and they have three golden albums with Playtone label in it because he's still with contract with them. And then he turned into a producer. So he turned into not really Mr. White, but his boss, the boss in Playtone. And the bass player went to Vietnam for 2 tours and got a Purple Heart. And Lenny's the only guy who's like not in music and he's single. That's what he gets. That kind of ends up the movie. Now, before I burst into flames. At least my throat does. We'll give you a quick summary of the movie and set you off and probably send you off to pop culture minefield. All right, guys. This first movie by Tom Hanks was, to me, a surprise. I did not watch this in the theater. I actually watched this on a rental VHS at the very tail end of VHSs. It was a pleasant surprise. It sort of a play on the Beatles, but it could be sort of a play on the Monkees as well. Kind of, not really, but it is of the vein of the same kind of bands that came and went, those one-hit wonders, and exactly and things turn out from start to finish exactly in the way you kind of predicted it would be from a band that kind of have that one song. Now they do have that second song that comes up and they do get to perform it a little bit. You hear it a little bit, but it's mostly people come from that first song. And that was the whole story of the movie. And this is what Tom Hanks wanted to tell, the tale of one of these bands. And there's a big emphasis on first getting to know them and getting to know how they actually started, because a lot of these bands started from bumfuck USA or, you know, the Midwest USA, and kind of got into prominence for a little bit and then, you know, scattered into the abyss. Some made it through to other bands, some didn't. Most of them didn't. But they had that one little highlight of their career. And in the Wonders, they had like a really shining, bright career where they're in a sort of a party movie and in this sort of a showcase big TV show, but then everything kind of falls flat and kind of reverts back to, you know, zero gain, zero loss. But there are some remnants. Like I said, each one of these people represents an atypical guy from these bands that went into something else. You can get the extended version. Like I said, is around an extra half an hour where you get to know a little bit more of a background. You get to see the bass player interact with more soldiers. He had that little diner interaction with the soldiers where the soldier make him do like 100 push-ups, but he does have a little bit more going into this army surplus store before he decides to enlist. This is kind of leads him into enlisting. A little bit more scenes here and there, but not much. Just to flush out the characters just a little bit more. I didn't find the extended version appealing more than the original movie. I kind of like the theatrical version. It's enough for me to get the full breadth of the story. And overall, a great movie to, you know, to sink your teeth in if you don't want to, you know, overthink it. It's not a little popcorn movie, not offensive, no offensive words, but a really solid, good movie with well thought out kind of plan of what you wanted to see and what you wanted to get. Even the instruments that we're using, it first starts off with really basic ones that you can get and then turns into more elaborate ones, and modeled after some of the Beatles stuff and some of the other bands of the time stuff that they had and they played with once they got into like a good position where they could afford it. So, guys, thank you very much for joining me. Next week, we are starting December to Dismember. We're going to go with horror-themed Christmas movies. It's going to be fun because we're going to start with a classic, a movie that I have not seen at all. Cavitano said there is no 4K of this movie yet. No, there isn't. Not that I know of. You can ask Tom. And if you say you haven't found it, probably there isn't one. I don't remember who owns this movie. I think it's Fox. So it is a Disney movie now. So don't expect a 4K version. Maybe we don't know. So next week, a movie that I have not seen yet. It's called Black Christmas. I think it's with Margot Kidder, and it's before Superman. So it's 1974. I don't know where you can catch it. I think you can get it on Tubi or maybe free on YouTube. Go on and check. I'm pretty sure you can get a copy free because I know I can get a copy free, not a pirated one. So original Black Christmas next week. I think we're gonna have a guest coming back, Nadia, who was with us for the October spooky month. So go watch Black Christmas, come back to us next week, and we'll start December to Dismember. And until then, guys, remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. We'll see you next week.